Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. The studio lights were brighter than usual that evening, or at least that was how it felt to David Muir as he sat behind the familiar desk. The countdown clock glowed red in the corner of the room, ticking toward airtime with its relentless certainty. For years, David had faced breaking news, disasters, wars, and unspeakable human tragedies with calm authority. Tonight, however, the story he carried was not one he could place at a distance. It was his. He adjusted his notes, though he already knew every word by heart. The paper trembled slightly in his hands, a betrayal he hoped the cameras wouldn't catch. Around him, the newsroom hummed, producers murmuring into headsets, technicians gliding across the floor, screens flashing headlines from around the world. Life went on, even when one person's world had quietly cracked open. Just hours earlier, David had been sitting in a small consultation room that smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. The doctor's voice had been steady, compassionate, careful. Words like biopsy, confirmation, and treatment plan floated through the air, heavy and unreal. Cancer. The word landed with a dull thud, not dramatic, not loud, just final in its clarity. David had nodded, asked questions like a reporter would. What stage? What options? What timeline? He had taken notes out of habit, as if this were an interview he could later summarize and move on from. But when the doctor paused and met his eyes, David felt something shift. This wasn't a story he could anchor from a desk. This was a road he would have to walk. Now, seated in the studio, David closed his eyes for a brief moment as the director's voice echoed, 30 seconds. He breathed in slowly, grounding himself. For decades, viewers had trusted him to guide them through the darkest hours. Tonight, he would ask them to walk with him instead. 10 seconds. The theme music swelled. The red light blinked on. "Good evening," David began, his voice steady at first, familiar and reassuring. He delivered the opening headlines with practiced precision, guiding viewers through the world's events. But as the broadcast neared its end, the room seemed to grow quieter, as if everyone sensed what was coming. David glanced at the camera, then briefly down at his notes. He swallowed. "Before we go tonight," he said softly, "I want to share something personal." In control rooms and living rooms across the country, people leaned in. "Many of you invite me into your homes every night. You trust me with your stories, your fears, your hopes, your grief. Tonight, I'd like to honor that trust." There was a pause, a long one. "Earlier today, I received confirmation of a cancer diagnosis." The words hung in the air, stark and unadorned. David felt his chest tighten. He had practiced this moment, rehearsed it silently, but nothing could prepare him for the weight of saying it out loud. He took a breath. His eyes glistened. "I'm fortunate that it was caught early," he said, emphasizing the truth he clung to. "And I have an extraordinary medical team and an incredible circle of support. Treatment will begin soon." For a moment, his voice wavered. David looked down, gathering himself, then back up. The camera caught the tears he could no longer hold back, one slipping free despite his best efforts. "In my career, I've told stories about resilience," he said, emotion threading through every word, "about people who face the unimaginable and find strength they didn't know they had. I never imagined I'd be standing here, needing that same strength." The newsroom was utterly still. Producers wiped their eyes. Camera operators blinked rapidly, focusing through their own tears. David continued, "I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but for honesty. Illness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are or what you do. And if my experience can encourage even one person to get checked, to listen to their body, then this moment matters." He paused again, his composure fraying but not broken.
I'll be stepping back from the desk for a short time to focus on treatment and recovery. I'll be back, stronger, grateful, and ready to tell more stories. A faint, hopeful smile touched his lips. Thank you for allowing me to share this with you, and thank you for your kindness, your messages, and your prayers. They mean more than I can say. The broadcast ended. The red light dimmed. As soon as the camera stopped rolling, David exhaled deeply, his shoulders sagging. Applause erupted in the studio, not loud or celebratory, but warm, supportive, full of love. Colleagues stepped forward, offering hugs, squeezing his hands, whispering words of encouragement. "You were incredible," one producer said quietly. David nodded, though his eyes remained wet. "I just told the truth," he replied. That night,
Social
the world
media
responded.
flooded with messages of support. Viewers sharing their own battles, survivors offering hope, families thanking him for his honesty. Hashtags trended, not with sensationalism, but with solidarity. Cancer survivors wrote about the moment they rang the bell after their final treatment. Caregivers shared photos of loved ones lost and loved ones still fighting. Doctors thanked him for reminding people that early detection saves lives. In the days that followed, David found himself on the other side of the stories he'd told for years. Hospital corridors replaced studio hallways. Appointment schedules replaced broadcast rundowns. He learned the language of treatment, cycles, side effects, recovery days. Some mornings were harder than others. There were moments of fear, flashes of anger, quiet nights when the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on his chest. But there was also light. Friends dropped off meals and handwritten notes. Colleagues sent videos from the newsroom, reminding him he was missed. Strangers mailed letters, their words raw and hopeful. "You're not alone. We're fighting with you." On difficult days, David would reread those messages. He realized something profound. His life's work had not only been about delivering news, it had been about connection, about standing with people in moments of truth. One afternoon, during a particularly grueling week of treatment, David sat by a window overlooking the city. The skyline shimmered in the distance, alive and indifferent, just as it always had been. He felt tired, but he also felt something else, a quiet determination. He thought of the countless stories he had yet to tell, of voices still unheard, of moments of courage waiting to be seen. This chapter, painful as it was, had become part of his story, not the end of it. Months later, when David finally returned to the anchor desk, the welcome was overwhelming. The applause, the messages, the sheer outpouring of affection left him momentarily speechless. He looked into the camera once more, eyes bright, posture strong. "Good evening," he said, emotion catching briefly in his voice. "It's good to be home." And in that moment, viewers saw not just a journalist, but a man who had faced fear, embraced vulnerability, and emerged with deeper compassion. The devastating moment that once brought tears had become something else entirely, a reminder that even in the darkest confirmations, there is room for honesty, hope, and human connection.